So how was it like being around him? Because later, you were quite a lot working with him, and how was that experience for you?
I remember one day because I was living in his house, I was staying with my partner in the room above Osho's, and my first job was cleaning the house, not his rooms, but everywhere except his rooms, and then editing. I was made his editor at one point, chief editor. So I was working in the house, and one day I went down the stairs. At that time you could just walk past his room, there were curtains, and lo and behold, he was standing alone by the doors to Darshan porch, because usually his caretaker Vivek was with him. And I was completely shocked, and he just said, where is Vivek? I suppose I muttered, I'll go and look for her, Bhagwan. But we just had a few minutes standing really close together, and I was the same height as him, 5'4.5", which was a sort of a shock, because I'd only ever sat at his feet, and I was standing level with him. So both registering, oh, I'm the same size, and simultaneously his energy, which was vast. It was really interesting to feel those two things together, his physicalness and his aura, I guess you'd say, his energy field. In Darshan it was amazing. I kind of was given the role of guinea pig. It started off with, like most people, I could go to Darshan once a month or so on, and then one night he told me to come, and he wanted to demonstrate a technique, and he asked me to do it. And then, so that happened a few times. I'd just be called in randomly, and then one day Vivek came to my room and said, Osho says you to come to Darshan every night. So that was just amazing. And so my role was to demonstrate techniques. When I first came to Osho, Kundalini and Dynamic were in place, and Shiva Nitra, I think a couple of Gauri Shankar. But in the course of those evenings, Osho introduced us to more of his active meditations, and I was sort of the guinea pig in that respect too. For example, one day he called me, I would be sitting at the side, Maneesha, come here, and he said, start dancing. So I'd actually learnt ballet dancing, and I've always been a bit of a show-off. It was actually I was quite comfortable just waltzing around, and I was humming a waltz tune to myself. And he said, good, now do Tai Chi. And I'd never done Tai Chi, but when your master says do Tai Chi, you do Tai Chi. And I understood the principle of it, that you do very studied, slow movements. So I did that, and he said, which did you like best? And I said, well, they've both got their own beauty. He just nodded. And out of that came Nataraj, and which was not like Tai Chi. And then another time, the Nada Brahma, he said to start humming, and then he described the two different movements and told me to practice it privately also, and then to tell him what the feelings were. One night, the most outrageous was when he said, go and stand down the bottom of the porch, so where his car now is, and he said, just stand facing the garden, put your feet a little apart and put your hands on your hips. So I looked across the garden, there's a beautiful lawn and the bougainvillea falling down like a waterfall down the fence, and there was the moon. So I stood like that, and I thought, what's he going to have now up his sleeve? And then he said, now start laughing. And I looked at the moon, I thought, that's crazy. you can't just laugh for no reason at all. And I started laughing at how crazy it was, and then I realized that's what I was meant to be doing. So I laughed and laughed, then he started chuckling, and then everyone else around him started chuckling. So that was fantastic. And then another night, a young guy came with some issue, and again he called me forward and said to sit on my folded knees and to raise my arms.
Oh, the prayer.
And he said, now feel as if you're being showered on with energy. So I duly raised my arms and started to imagine. And I actually was. I thought I just have to imagine. It's going to be an exercise in imagination. But I just started trembling and shaking, and it became ecstatic, and I started laughing and crying because I was just full of energy. And then he said, now bend down and release it into the earth. So I did that, and then again, and then he said to everybody, and you do this 7 times, otherwise it's incomplete. And then he said to me, Maneesha, you practice this by yourself. And that turned out to be a really amazing meditation for me privately. Just a little background, I'd started a love affair a few months earlier, and we were in this sort of really hot phase. And I started doing this meditation, and I didn't want to make love with my partner anymore. I was making love to the universe. That's how it felt, Mahamudra. I mean, it really was so all-encompassing, so extraordinary. It was nothing like any lovemaking I'd ever had, and I just so my partner was a bit dismayed when I sort of announced, well, I'm not really, this is so fulfilling. So we went to Osho with this problem, and he said that I should do the meditation at lunchtime, because in those days we all had a nap after lunchtime. So I did that, but so I tried to sort of be available also for my partner, but actually I think it really, in fact it wasn't just my thinking. Osho called us later and said, explained to my partner that he said the meditation's gone very deep in Maneesha and sex will be a disturbance. So that was amazing, amazing effect that particular meditation had on me. And when I wasn't rubbing someone's third eye or laughing at the moon, I started taking notes. I asked if I could take notes because these amazing exchanges were happening, and I thought it's being lost, just the person and this small group, and how much will we retain? For me, Osho's words then as now were just like gems, and you'd want to collect everything. You wouldn't want one to escape. And so I asked if I could take notes, and he said yes. So I did that, very inadequate notes, just sort of scribbling. And then, as it happened, I got hepatitis, and I was away for 6 weeks. And when I came back, considerably thinner, at the end of darshan, he called me to him, and he said, so now you start recording my words. And the sannyasin who was there sort of taking care of Lakshmi's safety, and he said, and he will take photos. You tell him what photos you want to take. And I couldn't believe what I was hearing, because it was the most amazing job. And he said, will that be okay, or will that be good? I burst into tears, and he just chuckled very lovingly. So that was the beginning of amazing 7 years of being in darshan every night, recording his words. You were asking about what it was like to be around him and work. I guess he saw I had a lot of energy, because my job up to then had been cleaning the house, and I'd get up at 5 and clean parts of it twice a day. So it was my job was 5 to 5. then I'd come to darshan. And now my work changed, that I was recording his words. So each night I'd be recording darshan, and then the next day, because he said by and by, as the recordings went on month after month, there's a certain degree of repetition. For example, if he's explaining the meaning of Anand to someone who'd received that as part of their name. So he told me to edit it, just to choose. So by and by I did that. So I'd have to go through it, go through the whole darshan, transcribing it, editing it, and then be ready for the next night. By and by, other people came on board because I couldn't keep up. So someone began transcribing it, and I was doing editing, and also interviewing people if there were interesting people had arrived, like Terence Stamp, the English actor, Vinod Khanna, the Indian actor, Diana Ross, the singer, American singer, Werner Erhard. I would go and interview such people, and also interesting sannyasins with an interesting past. So then I would have to incorporate that into the book. There was I think within 7 years, Osho spoke 68 darshan diaries. So that was every night he was speaking. So every month a book was completed. And in the mornings, of course, he was speaking discourse.
Hindi.
Yeah, so he's speaking, 1 month was Hindi and 1 was English. He was speaking 2 books a month.
Wow.
Phenomenal for 7 years.